Alaykum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This hadith has to be understood with other hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said that in the Arabian Peninsula, the Gulf countries, Yemen, Oman, Emirates, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, all of this is known as the Jazirat al-Arab. And the Jazirat al-Arab, the Prophet ﷺ said that there can't be two religions that coexist together, meaning Islam, he said ﷺ, Itratul Yahud wa Nasara, take away all of the religions, because once the Islam, had spread, once his, message had been completed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it became a place of Tawheed, that whole region. So he says, sallallahu that, there's no two religions that can be made apparent in that region. It has to only be Islam. After that has happened, he also said in another hadith, in the hadith that you're reading now, that Iblis, despaired, became sad, and he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Ayis Shaytan, and tu'bad al-asnam fi jazirat al-adab, fi jazirat al-Arab. He has a level of despair that idols will be worshipped ever again in that peninsula. ولكن تحريش بينهم. So now his efforts are directed at creating disunity and discord between the Muslims. So now what this hadith basically means is that Iblis realizes that this is always going to be a place of Tawheed, and the next biggest thing that he can do to reduce people's religious nature, to make them fall into sin, is to create disunity amongst themselves. Now, one last thing that we need to mention, hopefully now that's clear, but one last thing is Ibn al-Qayyim and others have said, this despair from Shaytan, does that mean shirk will not occur in the Jazirat al-Arab? Because this is important, because some people will then say, look, you Salafis are constantly talking about Tawheed and shirk, etc., when the Prophet ﷺ has told us that we will never fall into shirk. This despair from Iblis is a despair which he thinks is going to be the case, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is going to be the case. He doesn't know the unseen. He hasn't got the power of the knowing the unseen. La'natullah. In actual fact, the Prophet ﷺ has told us in other hadith that that I will never be established until some of this ummah fall into idol worship again. So his, being sad and becoming, his level of despair, his, feeling demotivated in spreading shirk in that region, doesn't necessarily mean that is going to remain permanent, and that shirk will never occur, and that kufr will never, reappear in that region. So just understand this hadith now is that Iblis, after seeing the establishment of Islam, turned his attention to creating disunity, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to do that again, because the Prophet has told us that shirk will reappear in this ummah before the establishment of the sa'ah, of the hour. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us a good understanding of his religion and keep us firm upon Islam, and that he makes us of those who cooperate with one another upon khair and goodness. Assalamu alaikum.